Take me through your feelings. Let's have a little therapy session.
Painful. Um, you know, I Wednesday morning, I guess when it was called. I mean, first it was anger. I was just really angry.
Hey,
Um,
you texted me, by the way. I'm
yeah,
fucking pissed.
yeah. I was gonna say I don't think I just said I'm angry.
Yeah.
So I think there were a few other words in there, and and part of it, and we just chatted about this a little bit. For all the things that happened during the 4 years of Trump administration, uh, nearly four, uh, since he's been out of office, the things that have been said, the things that have happened, felony conviction, the sexual assault, just all of it, the language, the vitriol, the nastiness of it all, and that Americans, the majority of Americans who voted, chose that, chose that. And just like, what are you saying to me? And who are these people? Where are these folks? Well, I guess they're all over, and they have these feelings about whatever they're feeling. Just don't necessarily express it um, out in public, but did in the privacy of the voting booth. And so, I mean, I know there's 7 stages of something. I'm not sure what stage I'm at. I guess maybe, I guess it's acceptance. It is what it is. But then but you got to keep fighting. Um, and but it really hurts.
I mean, I was at Howard the night of the election, so my grief started because you could feel the air change
Hmm.
when you were on campus. So I took my daughter, Maria Kristen, because I thought that it would just be an amazing moment to be back at my alma mater.
Yeah. How old is she, Mayor?
She's 10, you know.
Mm. Yeah.
And so you could feel, I mean, we've all been around big elections. You can feel the air. You know
Yep.
in the air when something has happened. We've been in elections on good nights and on bad nights. The air was
Right.
never good. So my grief started then. And then, to have the conversation, to have to explain to my daughter what was going on. So I actually went through the process today, or in the last 2 or 3 days. I've just been aching for the United States of America and the world. I mean, I think that the America's unipolar position and unique position in the world has never been more in peril. And so my heart hurts about what we do as a stabilizing force and what we have meant as a stabilizing force in the world because of the politics that are occurring in the United States right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then regarding the election, I have a little different feeling than anger. I think about elections like a NASCAR race. I think that Donald Trump, that car didn't run much better. They got 71 million votes. We dropped 16 million votes. So I think that the vice president performed extraordinarily in the 100 days. But we had a podcast. I don't know which episode it was, but we all said that we thought that the decision to abandon the president of the United States and to place a candidate in was not the right call. And I think 16 million people that didn't vote at all indicate it wasn't the right call.
You're talking about
Because
the differential between, I think,
yeah, I
President
think there
Biden
was a
got
difference
82 million, I think.
no, yeah, I mean,
81, 82.
yeah, so 81 million votes. We blew Donald Trump away. Donald, it's not like he didn't get more votes than he did in 20. So my sense is that we have to look ourselves in the mirror and have a conversation. I think that when we made a decision to abandon Joe Biden, I never thought we were going to win Pennsylvania after that.
Hmm.
Because he was Pennsylvania's guy.
Right.
And there's just a lot of, there's a lot of the air in the space of a handshake that didn't feel right about how that was done. And I think we should have let him and Donald Trump slug it out. And I felt like it would have tightened. And I think he would have won Pennsylvania. And I think he would have won Nevada. And I think he won Arizona. And the blue wall would have had a better chance of holding. So that's been my feeling. I mean, when you look at that 66 million number, I think we ought to be talking about. I mean, we knew there were 71 million people who felt the way they felt in America.
Right.
It's just
They're
that
already there.
the people that felt the other way.
Mm-hmm. Well, what, Mary?
Yeah,
What do you?
my process.
What,
That's the way I've been
what,
processing that.
what do you think happened? Why did those folks not show?
I mean, I think that I think we outsmarted ourselves, Mayor Nutter. I think that um, we did not do the things that we, there was a big shift away from the ground game, a big shift away from things that you and I know. I mean, I'm in Georgia. There was virtually no ground game. It was almost all television and digital. And I think that, I think that we've been moving further away from the model that was most successful, which was the Bill Clinton model, and then Barack Obama, who was a unique figure in American history. And then we got it back right when we went back to a Joe Biden centrist model that looked after Democratic interests, and then to a whole model that's basically, West Coast model.
Well,
with some folks said that the president should step aside of the United States should step aside, or we were going to defund him, right?
Mhm.
And that's a massive decision to make,
Right.
110 days out from a race.
Right.
And then I think in terms of the campaign, I may be in the minority on this. I think this was a 1960 type of campaign, and that a person who could have delivered a state should have been picked as the vice president. I
I'm
mean,
with you.
the first time that the engine stalled was the Tim Walsh JD Vance debate.
Absolutely.
That's the first time that you heard something in the engine that didn't the plane stopped ascending because JD Vance was a joke and they were thinking about kicking him off the ticket. And then when you get picked as the VP, you got one job. You got one job, baby. And I think he's a likable guy, but I don't think he was better than Kelly in Arizona. I think Cooper in North Carolina would have sent a message to the South and to white people that, hey, we hear you. I think that Shapiro in Pennsylvania, I think they were all just, I mean, it was a 1960 election. In my mind, you needed the feeling that I want to win at all costs. So this creative decision to pick a man from Minnesota,
Yeah.
I thought was, if we're going through what we've been thinking over the last few days and processing, I've been thinking it for some time.
Yeah, Mayor Nutter, what do you think of that? I wrote that I thought that Josh Shapiro, whose opinion polls in Pennsylvania are in the mid 60s and who has won statewide 3 times and wins counties like Luzerne and Cumberland and Northampton, which were double-digit Trump counties. Uh, you really have 2 jobs as VP: deliver your state and win your debate. And we got, I guess he did deliver his state, but we knew we were going to have Minnesota. I shouldn't say we. I'm nonpartisan. But Mayor Nutter, what do you think about that? There's a lot of talk here about what might happen.
Yeah. As everything that I saw certainly would indicate that Governor Shapiro did all the things that a governor would do. And in this circumstance, and certainly wanted to deliver Pennsylvania for Vice President Harris, whether he was the VP pick or not. I mean, I think there's some amount of debate about whether or not people vote for VP, in the first place, and um, you know, who knows what goes on in that room when that conversation takes place. And did Governor Shapiro? I mean, look, any one of us certainly. I feel fairly confident speaking for Mayor Reed that in our line of business, anyone would certainly want to be considered. I mean, it's going to be the shortest of short lists, and it's certainly a great honor. But you also have to want that. And I don't know, and I never asked him, Governor Shapiro, if he really wanted it. Certainly, you want to be considered. But Mary, I want to go back, especially for our listeners, some of whom might not have necessarily been around in 1960.
I understand.
So
that's
when
why
you say,
that's why we're such good partners.
So when you say the 1960 election, would you, on behalf of the listeners, maybe go a little more in depth on that and then make that connection? 1960 to 2024.
Kennedys didn't like Lyndon Baines Johnson. He could deliver Texas. They wanted it so badly that they put him on the ticket because they wanted it so badly.
Yeah, there's a famous story about when they went to him.
Yeah,
and then they came back and said, he said yes. He said
yeah.
yes. They were like stunned.
He said, there were all kinds of things about what he said when they asked him, but he ended up doing it. He's the reason that John F. Kennedy got elected. Just think how different American history would be if they had just decided to pick a governor from California. From New York. I just think that.
Yeah.
I think what we're doing today is really talking about where we think the country is and talking about our own experience and the way that we're processing what happened. And I just, I think that 66 million votes, a 16 million vote drop off is where the focus ought to be. We knew the 71 million was
solid.
Shocking.
Right.
That 71, 72 million didn't shock me.
Right.
It would have been shocking if he would have got a bigger number than he did. That would have been shocking to me.
Yeah. Yeah. But the fact that he did, also win the popular vote, which apparently hasn't happened for a Republican. We can debate whether or not Donald Trump is a Republican, but it hasn't happened in 20 years. Is amazing in and of itself. And so, had to remind my students on Wednesday, which was just a very difficult class to get through. This is the only election I'm aware of. It's the only election in America where you can get more votes than the other candidate and still not win. It's the only one, right? And so, there was confusion even about that, but she won the popular vote. It's nice, it's great, it's a great statistic, but you don't become president because you won the popular vote. There's been a lot of speculation, consternation, concern around message for Democrats, and again, very quite interested in your perspective on that. I have some of my own.
And on that question of message, let me raise one thing that jumps out at me from the exit polls. This realignment of working class voters, as defined by those with high school degrees. Biden lost that cohort, white and black, by 4 points to Trump. She lost it by 12, according to exit polls. This is the party, this was Harry Truman's party of the common man. And now it's become the party of the college-educated elite. What's up with that? And why hasn't the Democratic Party adjusted? Because Trump has seized on that in 3 elections now.
Well, I think that you don't get those folks by throwing out the Joe from Scranton.
Yeah, no, she did much worse than him in those meetings.
You don't get them by, we just, I think we just have somehow in all of this data and what I feel is, and I love my friends on the West Coast, but I believe right now there's a dominance in the apparatus that is not based in areas where I think you win presidential elections.
Mhm.
And I think that Democrats, there's a model that worked, and I believe in sticking with models that work, not saying let's do a whole new thing.
Right. Are we trying to do too much?
Let's just be clear. I mean, there was a decision that we're going to do a whole new thing that's never been done in the history of modern electoral politics. There's somebody in a room that came up with an idea that he's down 3 or 4 points. We need to do a whole new thing. We didn't agree about that. We had an hour-long podcast about it. And in politics, you get to say somebody was right and somebody was wrong. It doesn't mean that we don't go with the play once it's called. Hey, I may have
Anybody right?
tried cheating on you, but once you propose and put a ring on her, I'm for it. If you love her, I love her. So the play was called, a play was called, but when you're trying to do an analysis of how to go forward, you don't ignore the play that was called. And there is a model that works. And it is, everybody has thrown Bill Clinton into the trash bin. They treat this guy like he's a pariah. You all know it. I'm saying it. Not one of the best presidents this country's ever had, right? He definitely made a mistake talking to Loretta Lynch, but benching him was the biggest mistake that Hillary Clinton made. And that brand of politics, that center-left politics that absorbs new ideas and new directions to achieve the political result for folks that listen to our podcast care about. That's the way Nutter governed. I govern that way. I govern with poll numbers 60 above. Nutter govern with poll numbers 6. There is a method to center left, listening to everybody, politics. And you can keep playing around and believe that you're going to go all your way if you want, and you're going to keep losing. And that's where I think we are. Barack Obama is Michael Jordan. But that's how he ran. Everybody's heard Barack Obama say 100 times, I knew I was going to lose in certain areas. I just needed to lower the number I lost by. That's centrist politics, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. Well, Mary, now you mentioned President Clinton. I mean, let's not forget, he was kind of benched to some extent in 2000.
Exactly. Yes, he was.
Remember?
That's right.
Thank you, Professor. Exactly.
Right.
And he was definitely good for 700 more votes in Florida.
Well, he was the sitting president. He was a sitting president.
That's right. And when you talk about the working,
and the Gore team did not want him out there.
Yeah. And when you talk about the working class voter that I just brought up, I mean, there was none better at we called them Bubbas, right? That was there were the Reagan Democrats in the 80s, and then there were the Clinton.
He talked to those folks.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this.
Just so the themes were, we have saved democracy, reproductive rights, and I don't know, maybe it was immigration. I mean, I just never thought. So Mary said some pretty direct things. I just never thought that the Save Democracy message was a Black message, that was somehow going to drive Black people people of color and others out of their houses. Because so now I'm going to say this. Black people, we've been saving democracy since we fucking got here.
Say that.
Right? We had to fight with folks to fight in the American Revolution. We had to fight with folks to fight in the Civil War. You know, pick another one, 1812, World War I, World War II, right? We've been fighting since we've been here, trying to save democracy. And I'm sure some folks said, well, where has that gotten me? What does that have to do, literally, with the price of eggs? Rent, interest rates. I mean, you don't have to be Warren Buffett to figure some of this stuff out. And so I just never thought the Save Democracy message was one that was going to drive people out of their homes. And so, similar to what I think Harriet is communicating, even the disconnect in the messaging on the ground of what people care about. And I think that we are not doing, now being partisan, as Democrats, we have not been particularly good over a number of years in how we're communicating with folks. And they told us in no uncertain terms on Tuesday that we suck in talking to them, if we're talking to them at all. That's a problem.
That's very powerful.
And so now it's okay. So, whatever the 7 stages are and wherever any of us are, there's okay. So now what? Who's in charge? Who is going to be willing to have the kind of conversations that really need to take place about moving forward? And I'd thrown out earlier, are we trying to either do too much or be too much for too many people?
Well, the last point I want to make is that Democrats are not going to nice our way to power.
Say that one more time.
We're not going to nice our way into winning the elections against these people. Right. They are velociraptors. And we're going to have velociraptors, the most on Jurassic Park. There was a velociraptor. They're velociraptors. No, I mean, what they've shown with Donald Trump is once they pick their guy, he can be a felon. He can abuse women.
He did.
He can offend everybody.
He does.
He can have events, right, that bring back the worst memories of world history. But that's our guy. And they're not playing with us. And by that, I mean Democrats and Republicans. I want to keep everything in the appropriate frame. Mm-hmm. But you can't keep being in competitions where everybody is doing everything against you and you are laughing it off and playing with it. And because they have shown that they will do the thing. Whatever the thing is, they will do it. And Democrats within the bounds of
or say it.
Yeah. Democrats within the bounds of ethics and legality have to be willing to play that ball just as hard, or we're going to continue to get beat. Right? I mean, the future of the world was at stake in this election. The future of the world, the way the world is going to play out, whether the NATO alliance is going to stand, whether the Western alliance is going to stand, whether our unipolar position in the world is going to stand. All of that was on the line in this election. And we were still playing this softball, nicety, surprised, shocked. They're so bad. Get with them. Stop it.
Right.
They talk crazy, you talk crazy. You're talking about working folks, blue collar folks. Talk like they talk. And don't be afraid to talk like they talk. Simplify things. Mm-hmm. And do it real time so that they know, because Mayor Nutter, you know that no matter how lofty someone has an impression of a mayor. There are times when you have to get with people, and they
Oh,
need to
absolutely.
know that you're not just that figure.
No.
There's a moment in all successful politicians' life when they need to know, they know you got your degree,
Right.
they know you went to a good school,
Right.
they know that you went through an awful lot to get that job, but they still want to know that you get it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
They still want you to know that if somebody breaks in their house and steals their TV, that you want their TV back. You don't want them to file an insurance claim.
right.
You want to find the person that took the TV. You want to get the TV back.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have to, but if you look at this campaign, every time something ridiculous happened,
Mm-hmm.
it was clutch pearls instead of this guy's a moron. Like,
Right.
what
Right.
happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Right. Right. Right.
Not in some lofty professorial.
No.
And I
No.
think this language is a
Yeah.
key part of getting working folks back because people
Yeah.
are so busy.
Yeah.
You have to break through their ear. You
Yeah.
have to say something that makes them hear.
Damn.
Exactly.
Damn.
What you said.
Oh, holy shit. Right. So, Larry, you'll recall that Mary, it was probably not too long after you came in office in Atlanta. We had these, for me, that one of those moments was in the aftermath of a flash mob um, that a couple senior citizens were beat up and attacked, store ransacked, et cetera, et cetera. I went to my church and delivered a speech that no one knew what I was going to say, including my pastor. And it was rough, but it was a don't fuck with me
Exactly
moment, right? I'm not playing. This is serious. We're not saying it for. And so, to your point, when someone says or does that outrageous thing, they have to understand that what's coming back at them it's not a movie. It will be fast. It will be furious.
Let me just say that speech, we talked about it once before on the podcast, I think. I remember it. You addressed parents. You said,
Yes.
parents, get your act together or you'll be in a jail cell with your kid. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that
Yeah.
that
You'll be
was
spending some quality time in jail with your child.
quality time. That's right.
Um, and what's interesting is to Mary's point though, so I've shown that to my students. Now that was 2011. I couldn't give that speech that way
Exactly.
today.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm almost going to stun myself. I mean, it's on tape. It's 31 minutes, right? And I was like, ooh, I couldn't say some of those things today.
Wait, let's talk about that. Why is that? What would happen if you gave that speech today?
I think folks have become um, tremendously sensitive. Um, we got like a weird kind of different kind of PC thing going on, and I think it would be considered harsh or overly harsh. Um, Also relevant points. So, I mean, I think I could deliver a message and still get across my point. But again, I go back to what the mayor's saying. It seems like the, the the language, the lexicon has shifted in some way that we just want everybody to be polite.
And we're gonna polite our way to losing.
Right.
You're gonna polite your way to losing.
Right. Right. I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you.
I
So
mean, you all watched the Walsh JD Vance debate. That was the most powerful example of where if you didn't have to be a scholar to sit there at home and go, that is a lie. Not, I understand what you're saying. I mean, this guy was he was just on television, just lying.
Yes.
And Walsh
For an hour and a half.
sat on TV and let that guy say that Kamala Harris was garbage and never said, hey, wait a minute. Your guy is Donald Trump. He never said, wait, I want to, because he said it repeatedly. So he would open with Kamala Harris is the worst thing. Then he would answer his question. So he'd attack Kamala Harris. This is her guy. So this guy, she is trying to give him the second biggest job on earth.
Right.
And he would go, I understand what you're saying. I'm not making it up. And any other person would go, wait a minute, your guy's Donald Trump. You said he was an idiot. He never engaged on having the nominee of the party repeatedly attacked for an hour to tens of millions of people.
Right.
And creating multiple sound bites that were then dispersed.
Right. He didn't even hit him with his own words. I mean, J.D. Vance was a never Trumper. There's a laundry list of things that Vance said out of his mouth, which only got addressed by a commentator who ran through some of the things. And then he spins around with this nonsense of, well, I didn't really know him, but now I've gotten to know him. And none of those things are true. Really? Well, so when you said the things you said, you didn't know?
There's several times during that debate, and I'm just using it as an example because we have limited time. I could give you many more examples. We said, you know what? You're a liar. You're a liar. What you just said is a lie.
Right.
Because that people want you to fight for them. That's what an election is. You motivate your side. They feel so good about what you did that they take time out of their day to make sure they go for their girl or guy. That's what they do when they're going for the ballot booth.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel like, man, that guy, you know what? He's going to fight for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Harry Truman of all of it. Harry Truman said that there are 15 or 20 million people that have the power and prestige to make sure their affairs are looked after. And for everybody else, there's the president of the United States.
That's right.
He is the person that stands up for the folks that are not connected. And that's what we're getting away from. All this intellectualism and parsing and all of this stuff. And that's how Trump beat us. Because he's terrible, but he is who he is.
Right. And as you said, and he's their guy.
And he is their guy. He is their Barack Obama. The way black folk feel about Barack Obama is how they feel about Donald Trump.
Right.
Let me ask you guys one last question to address mayors in this moment. If you're running a major city in America now with the oncoming threat, I think it's fair to say, that's going to come from the federal government now. What do you do? How do you? Is there a way to Trump-proof American cities? Because this guy's been pretty clear that there's an enemies list, and he's only interested. I mean, he said this explicitly. I'm paraphrasing, but he's explicitly said that he only governs for those who are loyal to him. That does not include cities, if you look at vote totals. So what do you do?
Defend and delay.
I'm sorry.
Defend and delay. Be responsive. Follow the law, but you control the timing. Execution of everything in the city falls on the mayor. The amount of time it's going to take falls on the mayor. It's 4 years. Do your job. Be respectful of the office of the presidency, no matter who occupies it. But you control your team's time. When
Yeah.
people would make requests of me that I didn't like from the federal government or from the state, it got prioritized. Right now, I'm trying to keep people from being murdered. But when I'm not working to make sure that grandma gets home safe, I will work on that. It is being worked on. It may be being worked on in a 2x4 closet down the hallway from janitorial services, but a crack team is on it. But I have to make sure the grandma gets home. And why, because you talk about crime in cities. So my number one job is to be cutting crime. And anything that takes away from cutting crime, President Trump, be against both of what we want. So I've got the best interns in America on what you want done.
Interns. Yeah, it's hard for, we, as they say, where you stand depends on where you sit. And so there are times when federalism works to our advantage, and certainly times when not. It's hard for a president to reach into a city and do anything particularly negative. They've got the biggest pocketbook in the universe. Okay, fine. But, my folks are still paying taxes. They still expect the trash to be picked up. They still expect a professional police officer or firefighter to come to 911. And it does not matter who the president of the United States is. I've lived in Winfield for 47 years. My trash day has been Monday, all 47 years, through 7 mayors, right? So there are things that cities can do independently and of the federal government. His weapon of choice will primarily be funding. Who gets what, grants. A lot of the funding is formula based now, then that's where Congress often comes into play. And, it appears that, Senate is gone and the House is in a state of flux at the moment. And again, as Mayor Reed said, I don't know what it means, Larry, if all the components of Project 2025, one of which is like we're going to eliminate the Department of Education. What does that mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even understand why, but okay, fine. But I mean, does that mean the federal government is getting out of the funding business, or are you just going to disperse it in other places because that was a great tagline and that helps to drive the culture war? Excuse me, I'm not sure, but I think there's going to be a DOT, right? Somebody's got to maintain America's, right? I think.
I'm sorry, it has to maintain what?
America's infrastructure, roads and bridges and all that. Somebody's got to take care of all those national parks. So I think there's going to be a Department of the Interior. So, I mean, the one thing we know about Donald Trump is a lot gets said, not much gets done, right? It was 8 years ago. It was,
Exactly.
I'm going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. But the wall didn't get built and we know Mexico didn't pay for it, right? It was infrastructure week every other week. Did they ever pass a bill? No. Who passed the bill? Joe Biden, right? So, I mean, less than half of that rhetoric ever actually goes anywhere. So who knows?
What about
cities
this?
Cities are going to run. They're going to be around. We will survive.
What about this mass deportation, this vague mass deportation plan? If I'm
It's
a
not
mayor,
happening.
I'm concerned about people rounding up my people. But what can I do about that? Although we don't even know what that even means,
Right.
because the campaign didn't litigate it.
No one litigated it because I think again it goes back to something Mayor Reed said. I think for Democrats, part of our problem is we like to think that we live in a rational, sane world where people say the wildest ass thing imaginable, and we just say, well, I mean, first of all, that's not even possible, and that's crazy, and nobody's going to accept it, right? So Donald Trump and team, they lie and tell the truth every day. They lie all day long, but they actually tell you what they want to do. We should believe them. We don't want to believe them because the ideas are so bizarre, right? That's not possible, right? We haven't learned a lesson yet. No one thought, virtually no pollster could show in 2016 any possible way for Hillary Clinton to lose. Yet that happened. So if that's your fundamental, if that's your baseline, then you have to accept that anything is possible. So could you deport 11 million people? No one has indicated that that is possible. And the consequences of which are unknown. Are you telling me that the National Guard is going to be marching down the streets of Atlanta and Philadelphia looking for folks to round them up? How is that possible? But
Larry, it take 4 years to staff. I mean, I just get in the mechanics of it. When you know, it takes 4 years to staff up for that effort on the federal government's part.
Mm.
Speaking to your point, the mayors typically have the biggest police forces in their state. They're more APD officers than there are Georgia State Patrol.
right,
That doesn't go to the Army National Guard, which is citizens based, right?
right,
Yeah.
So it's cooperation.
right,
My priority is keeping people safe.
right,
So if you show me where to staff, first of all, you can fight it.
mhm,
All cities have legal departments, and you
Yeah.
can engage in years-long litigation
no
to
question.
oppose these policies. And if you don't want to take that approach, make them staff the thing.
Right,
Because I'm telling you how hard it is right now to hire a police officer.
Mm.
How hard do you think it's going to hire somebody who voluntarily agrees to sign up to be paid to round people up running through neighborhoods?
Right.
Put it all on him to execute it.
Mhm.
My sense is the same thing that's going to happen with these deport claims has happened with the wall. Nothing. It was all talk. But because we're not talking to folks in languages that break through, like repeatedly telling him that with any time he said, you're lying. You're not rounding up 11 million anything. Why didn't nobody? You're lying. He's lying.
Right,
He's not
Right.
going to do that.
right, right. He stood on the stage with Vice President Harris. And when he was asked about healthcare, he said, I have a concept of a plan.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you were president of the United States. You've now had 3 years and 11 months since being president. And you said on national live television, I have a concept of a plan. The next day I came in my class. I said to my students, I said, do me one favor, promise me one thing, whether it's with me or any other professor. If you are asked, is your paper ready? Do not say, I have a concept of a plan for submitting this paper next week.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I would love for one of my associates to tell me they have a concept of a motion this week. I have a concept of this brief that needs to be filed.
Things will be filed tomorrow.
Yeah, let me tell you what I'm thinking.
But that apply. If this were a job interview, all these business people who were supporting Donald Trump, would they ever hire this guy at any stage of their for any position in their business?
Larry,
What he says?
he wouldn't get through the background check. He's a convicted felon.
Yeah, I mean,
34
unless you have a unless you ban the box, man, Nutter, he wouldn't get through. But because progressives like me and you banned the box, he would at least be interviewed.
Yes, he would guarantee the interview.
There you go. He would be able to explain the 34 felonies and why we should put that aside.
Well, this has been
This has actually been helpful. This has actually been helpful.
Yeah, me too. Hey, JP, play that clip I asked you to dig up.
This is a day of national consecration. And I am certain that on this day, my fellow Americans expect that on my induction into the presidency, I will address them with a candor and a decision which the present situation of our people impels. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. We face our common difficulties. They concern, thank God, only material things.
Nothing to fear but fear itself.
Fear itself.
I mean, look, he speaks like FDR was clearly an aristocrat, but he's kind of talking your language, Dr. Reed. I almost said Mayor Reed.
Hey, I got a couple of honorary doctorates, so you can
Yeah,
go.
he's
there
Dr.
you go.
Reed.
But that's some in your face language. Like I'm not going to be afraid of you. That's how you speak to a bully, right?
Right.
So
Now, did you hear him? Yeah, I heard him.
And that is one of the most famous quotes in not just politics, but just in American history. And it is stuck because of its simplicity.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're going to be together in Philly. Let's before a bunch of people who are looking to be uplifted in the way that you guys just uplifted me. This was really helpful.
Well, we won't be as restrained at the.
Are we going to the same restaurant? I want to cut to the chase. Are we going to the wonderful restaurant that we?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do.
Absolutely.
Michael Schulzen at Double Knot.
I want to go back to wherever that place was that you took us. That's my only request.
It's
that was a fine time, fine meal, and fine conversation.
No question.
You got it. We'll kick it at Double Knot in Philly. Again, mentioning them, so maybe we'll get a little sponsorship out of them, or at least a round of drinks, man.
Yeah, man.
That was a good time.
Can't wait to see you guys. Love you guys, and thank you for this time on a weekend after Election Day.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great to see you, man. Look forward to it.
All right.
All right. See you guys. Bye bye.